Moore Law is underwritten in the public interest by the Moore Law Firm, a legal professional association. This is Moore Law on Fox 19.
Welcome to Moore Law. Today is your chance to ask a question about any area of the law, from divorce to criminal defense, workers' comp to wrongful death. No legal question is off limits. We can talk about whether you need an attorney and what kind you might need, as well as what kind of time limits you might have to take action. If you have a question about the law, ask us anything. Call 513-421-4691. Don Moore, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing, Deb?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. And actually, I woke up this morning and saw your name in the paper. Right after we left last week was when that terrible accident happened in the snowstorm. And 103 cars? And so they contacted you with some questions?
Yeah, they did. And I chatted with them a little bit about it. You know, the insurers in that case, they're going to want to limit their exposure. And we talked about that and some other issues. You've got over 100 cars, over 200 people. That's a mess.
It is a mess. Those pictures were really unbelievable.
Yeah. It's really tough. You know, today, these are always my most fun shows.
They scare me a little bit, but yeah, I know you like it.
It's kind of Stump the Lawyer, and we've got a great helper today. Tyler Cantrell, welcome.
Thank you for having me here.
I'm glad you were able to make it. You know, Tyler practices with Caldwell & Young in West Union, Ohio, and Tyler handles traffic and divorce. He handles criminal and contracts. He handles real estate. He has a broad background that we need on the Stump the Lawyer Day like today.
Oh, it sounds good then. You know, Tyler, you do a lot of different kinds of practice. How does a lawyer like you get paid?
Well, it just depends. For like criminal law, we have two ways. It's either a flat fee arrangement where they pay a set fee and it covers everything from the beginning to the end, no matter how much or how little work's involved, or we do it on an hourly rate where they pay a retainer against the hourly rate, and that would go against it. And of course, we take track of our time.
Okay. All right. Well, let's start off here. Let's go to Donna in Covington. Good morning, Donna.
Yes.
Go right ahead.
I have two kids I took custody of about a year and a half ago. Their grandfather took me for custody, which I'm fine with. Visitation. I'm fine with that, but now I'm scared that he might take me for custody. I got him through social service. It was a friend of mine's kids. He did not want them in the beginning.
Right.
And so now you're worried that he wants them, is that right?
Yes, yes.
What do you think about that, Tyler?
Well, if you have custody of the children and the grandfather, there's been a change of circumstances, or he's now wanting to ask for visitation, he could take you and file a claim with the court, attempt to get visitation with the children, and he could ultimately ask the court for custody of the children. What the court would look at is what's in the best interest of the children, and they then make a determination of that and award custody and or visitation according to what's in the best interest of the children.
Tyler, isn't that always, like that test continues all the way until the kids are adults?
That's correct. Continues until they're out of the court systems.
And the court can review it based on a change in circumstances, whatever that change may be, the whole time the kids are under 18.
That's correct. Right? It goes for child custody, visitation, and child support as well.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. Next up, Mike in Westwood. Go ahead, Mike.
How you doing? I have a landlord-tenant question.
Okay.
Sock it to us, Mike.
The City of Cincinnati building inspector and the health department issued work orders on my apartment building back in the beginning of January. So for like leaky faucets that I have in my kitchen. So Friday they sent their plumber out to repair my sink. The plumber said he would come back on Saturday to finish. So I've been without running water in my apartment since Friday. Can I legally withhold money for my rent for being without water for 4 days?
Can you legally withhold money?
Well, you can put it in a trust account or a separate account to keep track, so you can eventually pay your own plumber to repair your sink or your water issue.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, actually, Tyler, I think that's a great answer. And one of the things that people often don't realize, if you just withhold your rent, you can be evicted for non-payment of rent. You have to pay it in escrow with the county clerk's office, and there's a specific procedure. Go to the county clerk's office, they'll help you with it. If you just don't pay it, you can be evicted.
Okay. Let's see. Next up, we have Michelle in Hamilton. A question about medical malpractice.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for taking my call today.
Sure.
My mother, she passed away. It'll be 2 years in October this year. She went into the hospital with congestive heart failure, and she had a nephrologist on her case who gave her 40 milligrams of Lasix twice a day, and she dropped about 50 pounds in a week. And I just wondered, with her going into kidney failure if I had a case against her nephrologist, because I really think he overdosed my mother on the Lasix.
There's actually a couple of ways to deal with that. Number one, you have to figure out whether what he did fell below accepted standards. You need a nephrologist to give you that opinion. And that's one of the reasons med mal cases are difficult. When we do it, basically, in fact, the last nephrologist we used on a case we had to go all the way to New Orleans and to get him to find a person who was willing to give an opinion and who was qualified on a kidney circumstance. The other thing I want to make sure you're aware of, it's a big deal. You got a 1-year statute of limitations on med mal, that's already passed. You got a 2-year statute of limitations on wrongful death. In a medical malpractice case, both can apply. The damages are somewhat different, but you still have a viable case until the 2nd anniversary. If you let it go past the October 2nd anniversary, you have no case, regardless of how strong it may have been otherwise. So best of luck. I would follow up immediately.
Okay. All right. Let's see. We have another call now. Nicole in Cincinnati.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have an aunt who came into a settlement who's also on Medicaid. And the lawyers was telling her that she would have to put the money into a trust account. If not, she would lose her Medicaid benefits. And they would set the trust up where they would be, I guess, in control of the trust and issue out payments whenever she needed it. But they would charge like $100 to $200 per check that they write. And so my question is, can this trust be set up in the name of a family member where there would not be a charge if a check was written on her behalf?
Okay. What would you say to her, Tyler?
Well, they are correct in that Medicaid has its special limits and qualifications in order to qualify, and if you have certain funds or assets, then you would not be able to qualify for Medicare or Medicaid. So for the most part, to answer the question in someone else's names, it would have to be very important that she does not have control of that trust is what's most important.
Okay. Don?
Yeah, and one of the things that they're referring to is what's called a special needs trust. If you use it for ordinary living things, Medicaid's interest would prevail. You would no longer qualify for Medicaid. So the advice they're giving you is good advice. The special needs trust is something that basically money is put out only for special things. We had a case years ago where we had a kid who we were able to get changes to his house to make them able to bathe him more easily at home and care for him. Special needs as far as transportation vehicles, lifts and things like that. Those are special needs. Anybody who administers that's going to charge some fee. Having a family member as the person who controls it may be okay if they're qualified. The probate court has to approve them. It's not just up to you. But I talked to the lawyers about perhaps an alternative trustee and see if they can get it by probate court. Best of luck to you.
All right. We are going to take a break right now. We'll be back talking Ask Us Anything. Give us a call, 513-421-4691.
Welcome back to More Law on Fox 19, your legal questions live, with local broadcaster and award-winning reporter Deb Haas and Cincinnati personal injury attorney Don Moore, recognized by Ohio Super Lawyers. More answers, more help, more law on Fox 19.
All right, we take you now to your More Law Connection, where attorney Dan Moore is answering viewer emails. Good morning, Dan.
Morning, Deb. Today our first question is from Chris. He wants to know, can I sue my employer for making me work when I'm sick? Well, what's really happening here, it sounds like, is your employer is trying to get you to go to work even though you're sick, and if you don't go to work, your employer is going to fire you. So the question really is, can an employer fire you if you're sick and you don't come to work? Well, the answer for Ohio and Kentucky is pretty much the same. Both states are what you call at-will states. That means that the employer can fire you for almost any reason that they want. Now, there's some few, or actually a lot of exceptions. Let me stress a lot. If you talk to an employment lawyer, they'll talk about all these exceptions. But if you're a gender, if you've got an age concern, if you're an employer and you're trying to fire somebody because of their race, you can't fire somebody for those reasons. But outside of those few exceptions, then you can fire somebody for any reason that you want. There are some other exceptions like the Family Medical Leave Act that can apply if the employer is large enough, or if you have a contract with your employer. So there's all kinds of exceptions, as you can see, but the general rule in Ohio and Kentucky is the employer can fire you for any reason that they want, and that includes if you can't go to work because you're sick. Deb?
All right, thanks a lot, Dan. We are back with Tyler Cantrell talking Ask Us Anything. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, let's head right back to the phones. Next up, Sharon in Northern Kentucky. Sharon, you have temporary custody of your grandchildren, but you have a question about that?
Yes. Thank you so much for taking my call. My grandchildren were dropped off on my doorstep, and the state of Kentucky said since they were dropped off on my doorstep and not the courthouse doorsteps of the cabinet, that they're not really helping me a lot, and I have a lot of financial issues of my own.
Do you know where their parents? I mean, have you talked to their parents?
We have no contact in the last 5 months.
Okay. Wow. Does she have any recourse, Tyler?
Well, I'm not licensed in Kentucky, but typically, if you have actually legal custody of the children or some sort of temporary legal custody, you can always seek child support from the parents. You would have to do that through the child support agency. They should assist you in finding the location of the parents and getting that child support from them.
Sounds like one where she should probably talk to a Kentucky domestic relations lawyer right away.
That would be correct, yes.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, good luck with that, Sharon. I hope that works out, and we were happy to take your call, by the way. Next up, we have Michelle in Westchester. I think you have a question about juvenile court. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I wanted to know, is it possible for an individual to go to juvenile court and access your personal information just by showing their ID?
Showing their ID and
yes.
having some information about you?
Yes. And receiving information about me.
Okay.
Well,
Don?
Yeah, the juvenile court is supposed to be confidential, and basically the whole idea is best interest of the child. So whatever goes on in juvenile court is supposed to stay there. If there's been a breach of that, that may be something you can look into. They are not supposed to be able to show an ID and get into juvenile court records.
Okay. All right, let's go back to Dan Moore with another email question. Dan?
All right, thanks, Deb. The next question here is from Theo. He says, I slipped on some ice in a store parking lot and broke my knee. Does the store have to at least help pay for my medical bills? There's a lot of rules that apply to snow and ice accumulations in the wintertime and when people slip and fall and get injured. I'm going to talk about the most commonly used rule that you hear, and that's the natural accumulation of ice and snow rule. Now, this is the rule that says that if the store owner doesn't do anything to clear the parking lot or doesn't do anything to clear the sidewalk, then they're not responsible. So the idea is if the snow just falls and it rests there, and if the ice just forms and it rests there and it's not disturbed, you're expected to know that it's there, that the weather occurred, and you're expected to avoid it. If the store owner comes out and he tries to clear the parking lot or the walkway and creates a dangerous or a slick condition and someone falls and hurts themselves, then the store owner could be responsible for that. Or a lot of times what you see with ice is there's some sort of diversion of water, like from a downspout drain or something, that diverts water onto a walkway, and then the temperatures drop and freezes and somebody slips and falls the next morning or something like that. That could also be what's referred to as an unnatural accumulation of ice or snow, and then the store owner could be responsible for that as well. As you can see, it's very fact specific, so you need to look at the facts and match it up with the law. The general rule, though, is natural accumulation of ice and snow, store owner is not responsible. Unnatural or man-made accumulation of ice and snow, store owner could be responsible. As always, if you have your question and you want to submit it to us, go to the fox19.com website, click on the More Law link, fill out the form and submit it to us, and we'll do our best to answer the question. Now, Deb, before I throw it back to you, I want you to know that yesterday was Dad's birthday, so we had a little birthday party. He's trying to keep that a secret over there, I see.
Don, thank you, Dan, for telling us information we need around here.
Well, the best part was that my grandkids, Dan's kids, Erica, Savannah, and Carter, all came to visit. That was fun.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Next time, let us know. I'm always up for cake. We will be back talking about Ask Us Anything. Give us a call, 513-421-4691.